Oh my god, I just saw Green Room and holy shit. Holy shit! Green Room is directed by a man named Jeremy Saulnier, and Jeremy Saulnier actually made a film called Blue Ruin back in 2014, which actually made it to my honorable mentions list of the best films of that year. And yeah, Blue Ruin is pretty damn good. I actually really liked it. And he also made a movie called Murder Party back in 2007. And I have not seen that film. I am not, that familiar with it, but I have seen Blue Ruin, and I now have seen Green Room, and yeah. Green Room tells the story of a punk band named the Ain't Rights, and the Ain't Rights are actually on their way to a venue in the backwoods of just somewhere in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in this forest, just like a random venue back there, and they're gonna play a live show at that venue. And Sir Patrick Stewart is also in this film, and he is the owner of this venue, and he actually is also a neo-Nazi, and there are also a bunch of other Nazis at this venue. And long story short, the Ain't Rights finished their show, and they pay them their money, but they accidentally, witness a murder, a dead body, and because of this, they freak out, and they are now locked in this room. And pretty much the rest of the movie is this punk band, in this room, as there are Nazis outside of the room trying to kill them. So yeah, it gets a little bit convoluted from there, but yeah, let's just say that the movie from there on is just like this survival, horror film, like this cat and mouse game between the punk band and these Nazis, and this movie is one hell of a great time. Green Room is one of the best movies I have seen this year. It's pretty fantastic. I know I've said this movie is intense. Like, the entire film is very intense, and it is also very, very violent. I know a lot of people call this movie, like, extremely violent, like they couldn't look at the screen because it was so violent. I didn't think it was, that violent. Maybe I'm just used to violence in movies, but it wasn't, as bad as, like, some of the stuff that I've seen before, so, I mean, it wasn't, like, the most violent movie I've ever seen or anything, but there were some parts that were, really, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. A lot of people get pretty messed up in this movie, and it's honestly really cool. Also, another thing that is super great about this film is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is wonderful. I actually came home right away after seeing this movie, and I bought the soundtrack. It is great. And it's funny because one of the songs that the Ain't Rights played at their venue was a Dead Kennedy song called Nazi Punks Fuck Off. And, yeah, as you can probably tell, it was probably a really bad idea to play that song when, the venue is run by Nazis, and they try to kill them later on, in the movie. So, yeah, that was just something that, The film stars Anton Yelchin, Joe Cool, Imogen Poots, Callum Turner, Aaliyah Shawkat, Mark Webber, Macon Blair, who is actually in a lot of, Jeremy Saulnier's other films, and yeah, it stars a bunch of people, and every single person in this movie was great. Everybody played a great punk or slash Nazi, whatever their role was. They played great, they were great in the film, and Anton Yelchin, especially, he did an amazing job, He's kind of the protagonist of the movie. You're kind of following, his side of the story in this film, but yeah, he was amazing in this film. And not only was the acting and the soundtrack wonderful, but the cinematography as well was pretty damn cool. The film was shot wonderfully, a lot of really great shots in here. There's this very moody atmosphere in the film that just kind of gives you the sense of, like, hopelessness and despair. Like, it does a really good job, that kind of goes along with, like, how intense the movie is as well. I love the tone to this film because it doesn't take itself too seriously. There are some very humorous parts in this film. There's actually a lot of parts that I laughed at that were pretty funny, but yeah, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it's very, very intense, like on the edge of your seat intense, and it does a good job, blending those two kind of things together, and it works great. It's a great film. But yeah, guys, Green Room is amazing. I loved every second of it. Apparently, this is the third film in his so-called protagonist trilogy, where the first one was Murder Party, which was his first film. The second one was Blue Ruin, and the third one is Green Room. And his protagonist trilogy, basically all of his movies follow the same formula, where there is a man or, several people who are in these sort of situations that they don't quite know how to handle, It's just like these very unusual characters in these sort of situations that they're not quite used to. And his films are almost like a satire in a way, where, like, Blue Ruin is kind of like a satire, kind of making fun of revenge films in a way because of the fact that they're so, you know, just over the top and take a lot of unexpected turns that the viewers don't quite expect. I actually watched Chris Stuckman's review on Green Room, and he said his biggest problem with Blue Ruin and Green Room was that the characters tend to make very stupid decisions, and they're not very smart characters. And I think Chris kind of missed a point in that these characters are, you know, supposed to be stupid. They are purposely stupid, you know, because these movies are in a way satires. And that's kind of the director's thing, where, you know, he makes these movies where you would never picture, you know, these kind of characters in this sort of situation, much like the character in Blue Ruin. You would never picture, like, a man like this in that sort of situation, or like in Green Room, where, you know, you would never picture these kind of punks in this situation. And personally, I think it works in all of his films, you know, besides Murder Party, because I still haven't seen it, and after watching this movie, I really do want to see that. But yeah, just, I love Green Room. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was, one of the best movies of the year, definitely. I'm actually gonna go ahead and say that this is my second favorite movie that came out this year. The Witch is still my #1 favorite, but this movie comes very close to being my second favorite of the year. And yeah, as you can probably tell, I would highly, highly recommend each and every one of you to see Green Room. It is intense, it's violent, it's over the top, it's, you know, it's even kind of funny at some parts. Like, it's just such a perfect movie. There really is, like, nothing negative I have to say about this movie at all. I think it is a near perfect movie, and like I said, it definitely is one of my favorite movies of this year. And not only that, but this is also one of the most underrated movies to come out all year. And I think that every single one of you, whether you have heard of this movie or not, need to go see this film. I know it's kind of hard to see the movie right now because it's at a very limited run, you know, playing in very limited theaters, and that really pisses me off because I wish this movie would have gotten a much wider release, so then that way a lot of people can see it. And not only that, but I wish the advertising was a lot better because, you know, that way people know about it, and then people go and see it and realize, you know, how great of a film this is, because it's just such, like, a brilliant movie, and not a lot of people are, you know, not a lot of people know about it, and that pisses me off. I think, you know, this is a movie that needs to be seen by everyone because it's great. It's an amazing film. And yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about Green Room. You know, it's obviously, check it out. I would highly recommend it. It's a great movie. It's amazing. Patrick Stewart as well. Did I mention him? He's fantastic in this movie. I think I mentioned him. I'm not sure, but overall, Green Room is one hell of a time. I absolutely love this movie. It is intense. It is over the top. It is just everything that you ever would have wished for, like, in this sort of movie. And overall, I'm probably going to give Green Room a 4.5 out of 5. I love this film. I think it is great, and I've already mentioned this 1,000 times before. Go see it. You need to go see this film right now. This is a great movie. Please, go see Green Room. It's very underrated, does not get, you know, as much love as it deserves, and yeah, just go check it out. And yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say for this movie. Alright guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I am Jacob Palacio, and I will see you guys later.